Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Threads of Enlightenment, guys, you know how it is here, how I welcome the guests, because I deem that they're coming with several things very expensive in my eyes. I've learned this. First is their time. Time, what a precious commodity given to each and every one of us, 24 hours. Be very careful how you treat her. You have to learn how to respect and honor her, man. And as you do, she will do the same to you. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator, man. It created Earl that is before us, and he is about to share with us wisdom, knowledge, insights, stuff that we need to learn so that we can become better human spirits while we are here on this beautiful place called Earth. Earl, welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, man.
Well, thanks, man. I'm super happy to be able to share in this moment, and I love the idea of threads of enlightenment. It's such a cool image. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man. There's a story behind that, as usual. One of the questions that I do and I ask on the onset, Earl, is to allow the individual to crystallize to us what is their assignment, because I've been trying to educate everyone that we are here to complete an assignment. We weren't called here to live on this planet to have a job and then die. That's a morbid picture. And so we want to give you the space to tell us, how do you serve mankind?
Yeah, that's a big question. And I think it changes over time, right? I would answer that question pretty differently at different stages of the game.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe my answer now is a little simple. In some ways, it's just to be a little more kind.
Yeah.
And to wake up every day and to kind of try my best to work on my heart, to catch those glimmers in the world and to focus on the things that bring joy, and to be the guy that walks into the room and brings people up instead of brings people down. In some ways, maybe it's simple as that. I mean, I could break that down into, my job or how I am with my family or my partner.
Yeah.
But I think that would be the thread that runs through all of that, I hope.
Yeah.
So my answer has been more complicated in the past, but
simplicity is always a beautiful thing.
It's kind of been distilled down to...
Yeah. It is one of our assignments, I believe. We also, kindness and expression of love and appreciation for someone other than self is a powerful assignment to practice on a daily basis, if you will. One of the habits or our customs, for lack of a better word, that we do here, Earl, is to go back into that time machine that we can access through memory and revisit some of those spaces that we live and reside while we had landed on this planet, if you will. The first space that we were taking to after that hospital was the family. We have mom and dad. These are strangers. You are brought into this beautiful space. You're a stranger too. They're traumatized. You have been traumatized. Mom and dad also. So this beautiful family of traumatized folks is now going to exchange data. What was your family like?
Yeah, I grew up in Canada. I grew up in a suburb of Vancouver, North Vancouver. And my memories of growing up were, lots of sports, lots of friends. We lived I thought it was kind of normal, but we lived on a street that was maybe 15 houses on one side, 15 on the other. It was a 1-block street.
Yeah.
And on that street, there was probably 20 kids my age.
Wow.
So it was kind of a new suburb. It was like the place to go when you're starting, new starter home kind of things. And so there was a lot of kids my age. And so therefore there's a lot of parents that were my parents' age.
Yeah.
And so I really grew up looking back in a community, a village in a sense, which I'm so grateful for now. I could get in trouble by many parents on my street. It wasn't
Yeah.
just my own parents that were keeping an eye on me. But also, I remember I would come home from basketball practice
Yeah.
late, and I'd come into my house. My mom would have left the dinner on the table, and there was only one family that had a microwave at that time. And I would just take my plate and I'd walk in their door and throw my dinner in the microwave, and I wouldn't knock. It was like there was other houses that I didn't knock on the door, just go in.
Wow.
So it was a lot of support, a lot of great coaches. I think my tendency is to look back in life, and it's a little utopian perhaps, but I did feel like that about, well, it's interesting, I did feel that about growing up, and then getting into high school, really feeling like the dissonance of something's not right.
Yeah.
Something's not complete. Like, what's the point? What's going
Yeah.
on? Why am I here? That
Yeah.
question rang through.
At such an early age, did it begin to penetrate your thoughts as to why am I here? That's an early age, I guess, because most people in high school are we're talking about the jock world, the sport world, that kind of stuff. They're not looking at those type of deep questions, if you will.
Yeah, it was very much, yeah, like I always had a philosophical bent. I think I didn't have a religious upbringing, so I didn't have a church upbringing or a philosophical guideline. Maybe I was into the culture of turn on, tune in, drop out was really where I was at in a lot of ways. And so that inquisition led into, mind altering substances. And part of that was seeking different states of consciousness. I didn't quite know it at the time, but seeking to get beyond a normal reality, to see what was out there, because I was looking for something. And then it kind of spilled over into the negative sides of that, patterns that weren't healthy and all of that. But there was a feeding into that, questioning fed into that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And
I can
not
see that.
buying into not like what I saw at the end of high school or university was, I'm supposed to go out and work. I'm supposed to work 50 weeks a year. I'm supposed to get a house. I'm supposed to buy into that system that wasn't attractive to me.
That's excellent. It's great, Earl, to be awakened early in that process, because some of us, we, in our 30s is when we wake up and begin to ask those questions as to what you're doing. But here's this young man with an opportunity. And again, I understand, I would tell people anything in moderation, including moderation. If you don't understand the purpose of a thing, you will misuse the thing. You can take painkillers. The purpose of it is to treat something, but if you misuse it, you're going to get hooked. So, but here is this young man experimenting with that. I call it the elevator, Earl. It opens one's consciousness faster than it would if it was not being used, because the mind is constantly probed by thoughts coming from all directions. But when you take the elevator, if you will, you're able to get the express floor, but it can also be it can be a horror trip as well, as they say. And we know, I'm sure you're familiar with some people who have gone through some of those horror trips that have damaged themselves. So here you are, you saw that this program, and The Matrix is such a powerful movie. You saw that this program was not the truth to you. And because there are others that believe the program and it's the truth to them, and they will die in that program. So as you are heading towards college, Earl, what was the conversation, again, with that tapping within the mind and the conscious mind and the awakening, that this illusion is not a part that I want to be a part of? What did you do, and what were your decisions in prompting that direction that you went?
Yeah. I mean, I brewed a lot of beer. What it felt like looking back, I don't think I had the words for it at the time, is I had renunciation, but no path. I knew And the world for me at the time was meaningless. Like, it was very clear to me the world had no meaning, and that's why everyone's trying to put their meaning on life, and religion's trying to sell you their
Mm-hmm.
paradigm and overlaying a constructural framework on it, something that has no meaning. It has no meaning.
Yeah.
And because life had no meaning, the meaning for me was the most important thing was my time. You said it at
Yeah.
the beginning. It was like the one thing I can't replace is my time. And I knew that. And I knew that my meaning was to have fun.
Yeah.
And just as long as my fun didn't take away from anyone else's fun, then that was it. And so it was a very kind of, in some ways, selfish or hedonistic lifestyle. And it just meant the idea of working didn't seem like a good trade-off.
Yeah.
And so I went traveling, which I think, is such an interesting paradigm where you can, when I was, God, I can't believe this looking back. I was 4 months from graduating university, and I took out a student loan and I bought a ticket around the world. And
Wow.
I can't believe my parents didn't kill me. So I left. And then I remember being on that plane and feeling like I could change my name. I could, open up and be someone that isn't afraid to laugh. I could no one knew me for the first time in my life. And that theme kind of comes back later on and several times, but I left. I went traveling, and in my travels, I was selling drugs to support, my freedom as I saw it. Really, it wasn't anything other than that. It was wanting to have my freedom of time. I remember I was in Australia. I was up by Brisbane, and I took a job picking apples for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And 10 days of picking apples in the sun and slogging it out, and we all got paid in cash at the end of that 10 days, and then I just sold a bunch of drugs and made more in an hour than I had in 10 days, and it was like, I'm out. It's just not a good trade-off for me.
Yeah. So as you started experimenting with the entrepreneurial shift, as you said, one of the things that I find that people that exit the program early, they gravitate towards entrepreneurship in whatever form, because the driving force behind that is, as you stated, their freedom. They wanted that freedom, and they'll find it however they want to, however that business opportunity, that entrepreneurship opportunity comes in. And so you took that route, and you're heading out. It's a gutsy thing, Earl, to do, to abandon, quote unquote, your life, which was the college, and get yourself, or your future, if you will, and get yourself a ticket to travel the world. There's nothing like traveling, man, and walking into different cultures and different belief systems and so forth like that. It is one of the most intoxicating things you will ever do in your life. And anyone listening to Earl and I having this conversation, man, you have an opportunity to travel. But today, you don't be an entrepreneur like how Earl was doing the entrepreneurship. See if you can find something online, but get out there and jump in to different cultures. You will be rewarded greatly from that experience. So here you are, Earl. You're out there. You are doing your thing, and something began as I was reading some things about you as you're getting a little older. Something came into your life and change your life forever. Now, talk to us, introduce us a little in your travels. What did you started to discover about yourself? You made a statement about restriction of laughing. What did you started to discover about yourself while you were exploring the different cultures?
Well, it was kind of a unique, perhaps, turn of events where, I got arrested, and then I was in prison in New Zealand. And I remember the first day, seeing the irony of the search for freedom ending up being in a place where in some sense you don't have freedom anymore.
Yeah.
And being, a little scared, but a little fascinated by that idea of the irony of looking for freedom and then, knowing I would be a couple of years in prison, then, all sorts of things happen from that person. Yeah, I don't know if you want to get into that, but that search for freedom led to a place where in a lot of ways I'm controlled of what I wear, what I eat,
Yeah.
who I can talk to. But in some ways, the realization was the freedom that was most important to me can't be taken away.
Yeah.
And that freedom became the big exploration for me, really.
Yeah. It's the key, isn't it? What is freedom? We have to have an answer to that, because as you see, and you stated, that freedom, as I understand it, is more of an internal thing than it is an external thing. You had someone in the personhood of Mandela and these guys that were in prison for X amount of years, and yet when you read his story and stuff like that, he's talking about how he was free. Where was that freedom in? That was an internal compass that he had. And that's where his freedom came from, and it was able to guide and explore. While you were there, what were some of those lessons that you had to learn as an individual that was seeking freedom, and understand that there was some restrictions within your first understanding of what freedom was? How did you begin to respond to that? Because that would be a difficult space to be in, if you will.
Yeah. There was a couple things. Someone wrote me, they said, there is no better here than here, and here is no better than there. And that kind of reflected that idea you were just speaking of. But I think there was a realization that I didn't know what to make of it, but everything I normally worry about, girlfriends, family, friends, travel, food, rent, job, all of that I wasn't going to have to worry about that for 2 years or so.
Yeah.
And all the things I'm usually worried about or upset about or afflicted about kind of got wiped off the map.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to make of that, and I was just watching and I was observing, I think, and just seeing that it's not suddenly freedom it's not nirvana. The mind just finds other things to perseverate about, or to be upset about, or worry about, or stress about. So even if we took everything off our plate that we worry about, then the mind finds something new to worry about. So the problem isn't all of the things on the plate; it's the mind. And then I had an opportunity to really work on. I eventually ran into someone that started talking to me about Buddhist philosophy.
While you were there in
Yeah, I was trying to read anything on philosophy I could, and there was very, very little in the prison libraries. They're very old books, but I remember giving some books back to one guy. It was kind of some modern psych. Just saying, "Nah, that's not for me." It was kind of new agey, and he said, "Well, go talk to this guy down the way, Mike, and he's a Buddhist." And I was like, that just sounded weird, Buddhism sounded weird. But I'm sure I'll give it a go. And he gave me some books that really changed my life, and ideas that changed my life. And one of them it's a book called Progressive Stages of Meditations on Emptiness. Kind of like nature of reality kind of stuff from a Buddhist perspective. And I'm being fascinated and wanting to find the hole in Buddhism where I could throw it out. Just another dogma, just another philosophy, just someone else getting me to live by a moral code that wasn't my moral code. I didn't want someone else's moral code. I was quite happy with my own.
Yeah.
And looking for the hole in Buddhism where it would fall apart and it'd just be another thing that I could ignore, And it just didn't. It kept coming together and coming together and coming together. In a way, it became the main focus of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, I've come to believe, Earl, that there are no such things as coincidence. I believe you were placed there because you had an appointment in order to be able to escort you into that new freedom that you would have found. And you probably would not have found it any other place there, because you had the time to focus on it. all the other thoughts, if you will, girlfriend, money, house, payment, all that's
Yeah.
gone. And so
Yeah.
here was this guy said, hey, there's this guy, Mike, over there. And this guy, Mike, just happened to be a Buddhist in the same location that you are while you're seeking that untangible thing at the time, which was freedom, walking into the Buddhist belief system, because I studied Buddhism for a while, and it is an absolute. I grew up in the church Christian, and I was it. It did something to me in the sense that it helped me to be much more grounded in my approach and with my belief. And it's a powerful thing. It made me grounded in many ways. So here you are. You just happen to meet Mike in the right place.
Yeah.
And he starts to provide you with these books. And I want to stop here for a little bit, guys. All those of you that are listening, I've told you about books. Books house power, they house freedom, they house ancient knowledge, tools that you can read, and you'd be amazed of how powerful those words have the ability to leap off those pages, jump into your subconscious mind, your spirit man, or your soul, as they teach us in other belief system, and change your life. So, Earl, as you began to read these things and then hold them as to you while you're sitting there in that cell, what did you begin to notice about Earl with this mirror that is in front of him via the books?
I think that time in my life, exactly like you said, I don't think I would have got into it if I
Yeah,
didn't have that time and capacity for focus. So I think in general in life, I'd slowed down a little bit, like the selfishness or the hedonistic lifestyle had kind of mellowed out a little bit. So that was a change. I was a little more grounded. I think maybe that's a better way to say it, maturing a little bit. And then meditating, I think that was kind of this start of a door that was opening up into,
yeah,
I don't know, being more aware of what was going on in my mind and being more interested in how to control those thoughts and ideas.
yeah,
And then just being enthralled by the philosophy, just being
yeah,
to have a coherent philosophy that was inspiring and that was really, I don't know if it was so much a mirror of going personal transformational change at that time, but it was a change in my worldview. That's what it was. I think it was a change in how I viewed the world, and going from that place of the world has no meaning to the world, well, maybe the world does have some meaning, and very much like you spoke about earlier, of that meaning being in other people and
yeah,
in relationship to other people. I think that was probably the big change. Was my whole worldview on what the world was about was not so much about me having fun, so much as
yeah.
maybe there's something greater.
Yeah, Buddhism, it points you to that direction, and the uniqueness of us all, and to learn how to honor the others outside of yourself. Um, powerful teachings I acquired from that study. As you began to slow down and began to change your view of the world and those that are outside of you, as you began to acquire all of these knowledge, Earl, because it continues, and you began to change your worldview of others. What was your view of yourself? How did you look at you while you were there?
Yeah, I think it was funny to talk about Buddhism because I don't relate to being as a Buddhist so much, but I have studied a lot of Buddhism. I've studied a lot of yoga, and
Yeah,
those worldviews are very, there's some common threads in them. That the world is a reflection of our actions. Like imagining the world as a blank screen,
yeah,
and then the way that we watch ourselves do things, say things, think things those imprints in our mind then kind of manifest a world, in a way you could say unique to ourselves. Like
Yeah.
the idea that the world is a blank screen means that the way you see me and I see me is going to be different based on all of our past experiences and
Yeah.
imprinting. And so really the big change for me was seeing the lack of a self-existent nature to me.
Yeah.
The idea that Earl is one solid thing that everyone should see the same, and if they don't see me in that way, they're wrong, because I know me. I know who I
Yeah.
am. I get to live in my mind 24/7, so have this bias that I'm right, and if someone criticizes me, them,
Yeah.
and the idea that my actions directly, profoundly create my reality and my perception of myself, I think allows me to let go of strongly held beliefs about myself or about other people or about the world. And the focus really became about trying to use those practices to purify the mind, in the sense of getting rid of the negative thoughts and habits and
Yeah.
perceptions, and trying to use that understanding to react in the world differently to
Yeah.
the interactions and the problems that I was seeing.
I hope you guys are, Earl, I have a habit with my listeners. I try to welcome them into different stages as we are moving through the conversation. The first stage, I tell people, listening is important. When one listens, you change your focus. But I always invite them, Earl, to transition from a listener to one that is hearing. When you hear things, it is different than listening. It becomes more palatable, more powerful, if you will. It has the ability to change you. And I want to invite you guys to transition over, because what Earl is talking about right now and right here, when he started from the meditation, when he mentioned meditation and the mind, meditation is one of the most powerful tools passed down to us through time to assist us to manage our thoughts. I tell people, everyone meditates. I don't care who you are. Once you are a part of the human family, you're meditating. What you meditate on is what is going to bring the fruit. And so the meditation aspect of it, and he mentioned also yoga, these are tools that will assist you in learning how to manage your thought field. I call it a field because these thoughts are just all coming from nowhere. As Earl said, you don't have to worry about rent and all these other things, but the mind will find something else to put in its place. So meditation, and it was one tool, and many others, journaling, all these other things, are to assist you in managing that thought field so that you can become a creator versus one that is living on the default programming or the default demands of those thoughts. You are not going to be a reactive individual based on your thoughts. As you meditate, you are becoming proactive. You're changing your format. You're changing your process. You're becoming a powerful creator. Early you began to notice these changes as it's time for you to exit uh, um, that location that you were there for several years, and you're moving through, because you went into something that I want to talk about as far as how did you make that decision to head towards the meditation aspect? Because meditation to me, Earl, saved my life. So I have been very fascinated about doing what you did, because I am going to do it at some point in my life. I just need to schedule that thing out and do that, because I want to know. Talk to me about that, Earl. First, tell us, as you exited um, your location that you were there for 2 years, where did you go? How did it manifest as to where you went, and what did you do to step into that new location called this new world, the world, if you will, uh, other than the other place that you were in prison?
Yeah, I I left. I went back to Canada, and I just kind of continued my studies, and
Yeah.
had a teacher named Michael Roach, and I went down to help him start a retreat center in Arizona, and we did another 7 years of advanced study
Yeah.
in the desert in Arizona, and it was a very
Wow.
powerful time for me to, again, there was another leaving. I left my country again. I left my relationship. I left my house in this beautiful part of British Columbia. And
Yeah.
I'd been there after prison. I'd been there a couple of years, and I knew just felt like there's something more, and kind of took that leap again and ended up in Arizona, and really had an opportunity to focus on my study. And that, I don't know if this is what you're alluding to, but ended up in a long retreat.
Yeah.
After 7 years of study, there was a group of us that entered into 3-year meditation retreat. So that, what a beautiful opportunity to
Yeah.
do something. I feel very fortunate to be able to have stepped out into, we're so outgoing in the world always, and
Yeah.
to have that much time to go in and to try to realize some deeper meaning through the stillness and the quietness of deep retreat.
Talk to them, Earl, as to the length of time that you did the quiet, retreat, in the sense where you're not speaking, and silent retreat, if you will. Talk to
Yeah,
them as to that aspect, because that is a powerful place to be as one begins to learn now to discipline the body, if you will, discipline the mind.
yeah,
Just, it's a space of discipline as much as it is, people romanticize it, but it's a place of discipline. Talk to us about how that discipline and that experience, Earl, what did it do to you, the individual, as he was there for that length of time, and as he began to step up to walk away from it and move into the new space?
yeah. A couple thoughts. One, when I talk about 3-year retreat, I think a lot of people are like, well, that sounds great. I'll never do that, or I have kids, or I have a career. And it becomes a separation. And I think retreat is, we shouldn't think of retreat as a 3-year thing. It's a very extreme
Yeah.
version. And we can all take a half day a week and unplug, or, I used
Yeah.
to meditate half day once a month. I would spend a day doing my practice, built up to 2-day retreats, 3-day retreats, 10-day retreats. But that 3-year retreat, the structure of it was, we would do 4 weeks deep retreat
Mhm.
in silence in a cabin, didn't see anybody. I didn't really leave the direct vicinity of my cabin. And then we'd take a break for 4 weeks. And in that break, we had the option of seeing other people in the retreat, still in silence, go on walk, or write notes about, well, how's your practice, or that. And then, go back into that deep retreat. And that deep
Yeah.
retreat got longer, from 4 weeks to 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. And those deep retreats were probably 12 hours of practice a day, meditation, yoga, mantra, different,
Yeah.
different practices like that. Gosh, I don't know. It's such a journey within that time also. But what I remember at the beginning was all of this guilt came up. I'd sit down and
Yeah.
meditate, and it was just guilt about stuff I'd done in relationships, and guilt I'd done about, with my parents, things I'd been neglectful or rude, or, just all the stuff I'd never given myself time to deal with, that I'd spent
Yeah.
40 whatever years of sweeping stuff, 37 years of sweeping stuff under the rug, and
Yeah.
creating a life that I didn't have time to deal with it, not dealing with it under the illusion I didn't have time. And then in retreat, it's like, you sit down and meditate, and it comes, you going to look at me now?
Yeah.
You want to look at me now? You want to deal with this now? And it's like, well, I don't have anything to do for 3 years. Nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And so it was the journey at that beginning was having to look at a bunch of stuff I didn't feel so good about in my life. And it felt like, maybe like there's something in the wood and I'm sanding it out, or there's like
Yeah.
image on a dry erase board, and I'm slowly trying to wipe it out. And what it felt like was like, I'd been in a box my whole life of Earl, who Earl is, Earl the brother or the son or the youth worker or
Yeah.
the meditator or the Buddhist or the prison, the inmate. And all of these identities get reinforced in our culture, in our family, in our friends, in our society. And it kind of felt like a box that through that isolation was allowed to open up into a vast landscape of potential. And so this process of kind of dealing with a lot of guilt or negative ideas about myself, or a lot of it was guilt. And that, really that took 9 months, that process. I remember after 9 months being like, okay, that's enough. That's enough of, and now it's time to paint that picture. There's an opportunity to paint that picture of who I want to become. And retreats a beautiful opportunity, and those practices are, the meditations on developing the heart and compassion and wisdom, is transition. There's a chrysalis, and then something can emerge. That was part of the process for sure.
Yeah. And you guys that are listening that are guilt is a powerful force that makes some demands on us, and it can cause us to do some crazy things in life. I have an individual that had spent several months learning aspects of guilt and bringing in some tools to assist him to move through it. And so we're going to provide all of his information so that you can get to him, especially you that are in that space of guilt. I remember being there, and it can be very discouraging, if you will. It can put you into a loop because we are not, at the time, Earl, I wasn't equipped to learn how to come out of the loop. But those that are listening, we have an individual that have learned how to come out. And I always invite others to come if you want to be free from that. He has the tools, the experience, the knowledge to guide you through. So here you are, Earl, after you've done these things and you're moving through life now, and you are incorporating meditation, the mantras, all of the powerful stuff that one can utilize here on this life. As you are incorporating all of this into your life, how did you begin to shift into the space where now you're going to have the opportunity to become a teacher, a mentor, a guide, if you will, to help those that are coming in the back on the same road, but they're coming? And how were you able to assist them, if you will?
Yeah. I think it was rather unintentional. I think that might be true for a lot of people. In my experience is no one feels ready to be a teacher. A lot of people, I think, are hesitant to take on that role when I feel like, I'm so much on the journey myself, who am I to teach? Someone once said to me, for a teaching to occur, we need somebody that knows a little bit more than somebody else. And then there has to be a willingness to learn.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes for teaching to happen. And I really think that's a cool idea, because then it allows us to be teachers and students
at the same
throughout
time.
the day, throughout our life. But, we had a community of people that were studying, and I think when people hear, oh, you did 3-year retreat, then I don't know, there's a mystique about that, or there's everybody that went in retreat came out a better person. 100%. I don't know if there's if I just fell into it, or a responsibility if somebody has a question, to share my experiences and to share my thoughts, or to share my, my experiences on my practices of how something I've done might have helped myself get through that. And it just kind of, I left retreat. There's a time to retreat and there's a time to go forward. And I went forward out of retreat thinking I would get back into youth work. It just didn't steer that way. And I ended up, more of a yoga teacher and meditation teacher. So it wasn't a super conscious decision, honestly. In some ways, it was just this progression of realizing that, I had been through 20 years of something that had been beneficial for myself, and that people were looking to me for, some insights on, or
Yeah.
and if I can help. And, I've studied a lot. So
Yeah.
there's
We're always our first client, Earl. We're
yeah,
always our first client. And we get a chance to fine tune the process, if you will, where we notice things, we see repetitive things, we learn how to adjust and make it. I don't want to say uh, where the production or the it happens quicker than it would, because you've learned the intricacy of human behavior, human mindset. Uh, and I tell people how a guide will move you through is that they have become skilled questioners. They can pinpoint you from the questions that they ask, and locate your position, if you will. And once they locate your position, they know how to escort you
yeah,
out of it, because he was there for 9 months and he knows some other routes that you're not familiar with. And those routes came by because of the questions that he was afforded to ask. And many of you are not, you're so busy living your life that you have responsibility, as Earl had talked about, those responsibilities that he had negated when being in prison. The girlfriend, the boyfriend, the house, the car note, the pay, all those things. You're so busy that you are not able or skilled enough to ask the question because you're so distracted. But someone that has been through the process, that hasn't been so distracted, can help you out. And so that's why I want to invite all of you guys that have been listening to our conversation with Earl. Um, get Change your location, guys. That's You change your mindset, and you're going to change your location. It's That's how it works. This particular journey is not a McDonald's or a Burger King. Have it your way. It takes discipline, and it's several steps forward, some back, and direction. Be palatable, come open, and come willing, and your life will change. So here you are, Earl. You didn't go into it willingly or knowingly, if you will, but you are here as a guide, as one that is able to assist. Being in this space right now, because I tell people I can sense it, and I know others can that are in this space, that there's a change coming. There's something brewing within the next level of human development, if you will. What's happening to you, Earl, as you are going in deeper? What are some of those drum beats that you're hearing within yourself as you are excavating more and more of yourself?
I come back to simplicity, separating. I've been fortunate to study a lot of yoga philosophy, a lot of Buddhist philosophy, and to do a lot of practices, and to, I don't know, like, to sift through and distill the ones that resonate with me,
Mm-hmm.
and to let go of the, I don't know, like some of the ritual aspects I'm not as into as I used to be, and to integrate the deeper meaning behind the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Is one of the things that I'm really kind of navigating in my own life about. What are the aspects that are really important to me of all of this vast sea of practices and wisdom. And so it's been a distillation process, and it's been a more, integrating, kind of like I talked about, like there's a time for retreat and a time for going forward. So how can I live my life? My focus now really is living my life as best I can with my core values, and integrating that into the things that I do in my day, in my teachings, in my work, in my interactions with every single person, and to continue to use those tools which I've been, blessed to find, and to continue to use them to change my mind, and to gosh, it's hard to put words to, but it's really the integration of the wisdom moment to moment throughout the day.
Yeah.
Can I maintain my mindfulness in a difficult conversation?
Yeah.
And catch that moment when my mind wants to go to irritation, and my mind wants to go to anger, and get back to a place of love, compassion.
Yeah.
And
I'm learning it. Yeah, it is one of the, I was talking to someone a little while ago, Earl, and what I'm noticing, the importance of being present in the moment. And when I step out of the moment, if you will, that's when I step into disbelief, all of the other things, the negative forces that one can bring and allow into their space. But when you are present, you are in power, you're in the moment, you're present with what is going on. And as I'm learning, for me, Earl, that the key to this whole thing is learning to live in that moment, at that very moment, at that time, not allowing any thoughts to pull me out of it, but to learn how to flow within it, recognize what it is from a conversation. And when someone says something that begins to irk me or whatever, I have to pull, as you said, you have to pull myself back into the moment and not to allow myself to step out of it, because that's when all the other things start jumping in. And it's a powerful lesson to learn, because it's going to be every day until I die, bro. It's a challenge sometimes. Sometimes it's easier than others, but that's the process of growing, and I'm excited about it. Um, Earl, I've been waiting for this conversation for a while. I was so excited when you came on and you were talking about your life as I was reading it and trying to do some research as to things about you. So I am honored that you're here. And every one of you that have been listening to us, we're going to provide you everything for you to get to him, get access, man. I can sense from my conversation with Earl that we haven't even touched the surface as to what is available for you when you get in touch with him. So get in touch with him and get access to all the additional knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, insights that he has to move you through your current location. Earl, I want to thank you so much, man, for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Ken, it's been a pleasure, man. I really appreciate it. It's nice to share in the conversation and have another thread. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.